So, Disco Demolition Night of 1979 happened on July 12th. There's a little story leading up to that, and it involves the guy who ran this, Steve Dahl. Now, might have been Christmas 77 or before that, he was working at a radio station that changed its format to an all disco format. Steve Dahl didn't like disco, and he's like found every excuse to not play disco music while he was on air. And eventually, the station manager's like, "You know what? You're not playing disco music. You're supposed to play rock and roll again. You're fired." So he goes, plays rock and roll. He's fired. Now, later in late '77 or early '78, rival Chicago station. The number's 97.5. I forget the callers, but remember 97.5. Because that was as I said, the call numbers, and it plays the story later. Anyways, and he had, during the late spring and early summer, he had hosted other disco demolition nights that resulted in chaos, as in there was riots. And this one upcoming, well, I think you kind of have an idea of what might go on. And the 1979 baseball season begins, and Detroit's first visit to Chicago in May. They had a game in May that was canceled due to rain, and, well, postponed due to rain and rescheduled for July 12th as a twilight doubleheader. Now, everybody who knows what a doubleheader is 2 games in one day. Twilight is, you have your first game at, let's say, 6 o'clock p.m., play your first game, and then after your first game is done, you'd either have your original uniform cleaned, dry cleaned at the ballpark, and you play your second game with the same uniform, or players got cleaned up after the game, as they probably would have had it with their dry cleaning. Players get cleaned up and put on another uniform while the original ones get cleaned. So I think the dry cleaning made more sense, but anyways, we start getting towards July 12th, and Steve Dahl sees the schedule. He's like, "Hey, let's have a disco demolition night in between the games of that doubleheader on July 12th." And leading up to it, he says, anybody who has a record or more, if they had a disco record or more, they bring it to the ballpark, they get their ticket for 98 cents. See, that's 97, the Steve Dahl station rounded up to, that's 97.5 rounded up to 98. So there's the little 97.5 playing. Seeing as though there's no half a cent, they rounded it up to 98 cents. And they were kind of expecting 3 or 4 or 5,000 people to show up. Oh my goodness. They ended up with, it was estimated around close to 30 or 40,000 people lined up. I think that might have been around 10 or 12,000. Don't know how true that is. And there was already people in there that bought their tickets in advance, and there were some supposedly Boy Scouts or Scouts there. And during the first game of the doubleheader, Harry Carey, who was originally the play-by-play guy for the White Sox, and I think he did somebody else before that. I think it was St. Louis. He ended up with the Cubs well afterwards. Yeah, Harry Carey had mentioned that the air smelled like marijuana. There might have been some marijuana smokers in there. So anyways, the first game gets played. Detroit wins 4-1. And then the players clear the field, and a few minutes after the players clear the field, all-terrain vehicle comes out with Steve Dahl and this Lorelei woman, and it's probably some hot, his probably hot stuff then, probably. And they all drive out, and on the all-terrain vehicle they had this box full of disco records, and there's a bit of dynamite attached to it, and attached to the box were several charges. As they pulled to stop in the outfield, Steve Dahl was just going on this little speech about how disco sucks. He's landed disco sucks, and he tried a little spoof out on Rod Stewart's "Do You Think I'm Sexy?" And he's like, "Oh, do you think I'm disco?" Yeah. So he's doing all that. Lorelei's setting up explosives in the box there and attaching the charges to it, and finally it's time to blow this thing up. So he's switched the trigger to start the charges to go boom, 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 and then one big boom. The box full of records just blown up. As this happens, this explosion leaves a divot in the field. A pretty good divot. Now, that's part of the field damage, and during the season they had some series of concerts, and it supposedly rained before these concerts they were set up. There was somebody in the field was already in rough condition, and this explosion kind of added to it. And Steve Dahl's like goes on his little more speech to close this out, and by the time he's seen the first three people coming down that foul pole, one of the foul poles, and onto the field, he's like, yeah, he's telling Laura, yeah, you gotta get out of here like now. Yeah, he knew there was gonna be a mad stampede, and sure enough, there was a mad stampede, all right. Probably drunken, high fans ripping apart the field, setting bonfires supposedly. A few of them got their hands on the batting cage and wrecked that. So the bases got literally stolen, and not during gameplay stolen, but literally taken. Some of the equipment got stolen. It's like, oh my lord. And this security, there was not much security there, supposedly. He's like, security was well understaffed and well underprepared. They weren't ready for this. They ended up having to call the SWAT team to get these people off the field, and eventually they got off the field, and Sparky Anderson, the manager of the Tigers, is like, yeah, we're not playing on that field. Oh my god, it's like, it's in terrible shape. We're not playing on that. And initially they had postponed the second game of the doubleheader and wanted to reschedule, but it was like, yeah, no. What League was telling Bill Veeck, the owner of the White Sox, yeah, you guys are responsible for that field. You're responsible for taking care of that field. That's on you guys. Like, you're forfeiting that second game, so second game gets forfeited. And several arrests. It's just disorderly mostly, I think. But yeah, so that's what happened on that July 12th, 1979. Disco Demolition Night. It was stupid. They don't have that kind of promotion again. It's like, yeah, I think the league owners are like a little more wise to it, and the league president's like, yeah, don't do that. Yeah, the teams keep their promotions down to like little nice giveaways, or like free bats for the kids, or first 10,000 people get like a hat or something nice. So so that's basically what happened. Or even a magnetic schedule at the start of the season. So yeah, that's what happened on July 12th, 1979. Disco Demolition Night. And tomorrow I will be doing 1980, starting the 80s. And it'll be the 80th season of the series too, so I've already done 79 season, plus a couple extra posts. Yeah, anyways, on that note, stay tuned for 1980 tomorrow. Until then, cheers.